So in the last week or so, there's been quite a lot of talk about an AI-generated fan film, just a short film, called Star Wars Beggar's Canyon, which is roughly the story of Luke Skywalker finding a kyber crystal, which enables him to build his green lightsaber. There was a scene, I guess, in one of the movies that was deleted that showed him putting the lightsaber together, and that just kind of bounced off that, I guess. The big deal about this one appears to be that it was apparently entirely AI generated. There's been fan films before, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, all kinds of stuff. So we'll take a quick look at that, and then we'll take a look at the Beggar's Canyon one and see what all the fuss is about. In late 2025, early 2026, a short Star Wars fan film called Beggar's Canyon quietly made the rounds online. It is perhaps noteworthy as an example of such a project made with AI. It's unclear at the time of recording this if Beggar's Canyon is in fact completely AI generated, or if there was some motion capture or things like that involved. It's being presented as an AI creation by the author, and if so, it's quite impressive. Links below to it and other examples in the video description. Beggar's Canyon didn't rewrite Star Wars canon or dunk on the franchise. I think it did something a bit more subtle than that. It treated the Star Wars galaxy more as a lived-in place, not just a backdrop for epic heroes. And that small project sits at the far end of a long creative tradition, fan fiction. Fan fiction isn't a genre, it's a relationship. It's what happens when audiences refuse to remain passive. Fans take a story they love or sometimes feel let down by and extend it, remix it, or argue with it creatively. This instinct didn't begin with YouTube or AI, it predates both. One of the earliest viral fan films I recall was Troops in 1997, a spoof that imagined stormtroopers as officers on the TV show Cops. Shaky camera work, censored swearing, and imperial bureaucracy was played for laughs. What made Troops important wasn't just a joke, it was the confidence. Fans weren't quoting Star Wars anymore, they were inhabiting it. At the same time, Star Trek fans were producing earnest fan films and stories, filling gaps between episodes, exploring alternate timelines, and focusing on characters the official series barely noticed. These weren't attacks on so-called canon, they were acts of participation. As the internet matured, written fan fiction exploded. Lord of the Rings inspired massive archives exploring friendships, untold journeys, and emotional consequences the books only hinted at. Twilight, despite critical mockery, became one of the most prolific fan fiction ecosystems ever. So much so that some works eventually detached from the source and became original published novels. Why? Well, maybe because fans were responding to emotional gaps. Characters felt underexplored, relationships felt rushed or sanitized. Fan fiction stepped in to provide intimacy, depth, and representation that mainstream media often avoided. This space was especially important for women, LGBTQ fans, and younger creators, groups historically underserved by official quote-unquote storytelling. At a high level, fan fiction exists for a few reasons. First, dissatisfaction. Not always anger, but a sense that the story didn't quite land. Second, proximity. Fans don't just want to watch heroes, they want to live alongside them to see quiet moments and long-term consequences. Third, agency. Fan fiction takes narrative control away from studios and corporations and gives it back to the audience. And finally, play. A lot of fan fiction exists simply because it's fun. YouTube amplified all of this. Fan edits, machinima, and short films allowed fans to express their vision visually. Projects like Beggar's Canyon don't parody or critique. They normalize the universe. They say this world is big enough for smaller stories. That's a shift from spectacle to texture. Now AI has entered the picture, and I'd argue it changes the scale, not the impulse. AI doesn't invent fan fiction, it accelerates it. It lowers skill barriers, enables rapid iteration, and allows hyper-personalized stories tailored to a single viewer's tastes. But that means something's different. Traditional fan fiction says, I made this for us. AI-assisted fan fiction increasingly says, this exists for me. Community gives way to customization. Scarcity gives way to abundance. That shift is powerful and destabilizing. At 30,000 feet, fan fiction isn't about Star Wars or Tolkien or vampires. It's about who gets to decide what stories mean. Fans don't just consume culture anymore, they negotiate with it, they reshape it. They refuse to accept that a story is finished just because someone says it is. People don't want more content, they want more control over meaning. And fan fiction in all its forms is how they take it. So that's another video in the can. If you found this interesting or informative or even funny, give me a like and maybe even subscribe. And remember, be excellent to each other.